Hello everyone, I'm Destiny, and in today's video I will be teaching you how to deskin a 1998 Furby. To do this you'll need scissors, a 25mm screwdriver, a bigger screwdriver, clippers maybe, and a seam ripper if you have it, and of course your Furby. Step 1 is to take out the batteries if you haven't already. I just ordered this Furby off of eBay, just got it in the mail, and I have not checked. I have not done a full assessment. So I take out the batteries, and there is a bit of corrosion around there. So if you do have any corrosion around your batteries, make sure that you are careful when you remove them. You could use gloves. I used the screwdriver to kind of pluck them out without having to use my hands. Then close the battery compartment. Next, you're going to cut the zip tie that keeps the fur attached to the plastic part. On the back, underneath the mane or tail, you'll see an opening in the fabric. On this particular Furby, there was 2 threads holding that seam together. After you have the zip tie exposed, take your clippers to cut the zip tie. You can use scissors. I've done it with scissors. I just feel like it's easier with the clippers. Even still, it is a little bit tricky, so don't feel like you're doing something wrong if it's difficult. I struggled with it, but you'll be okay, I promise. And once you have it cut, you'll be able to just slip it right out of the Furby, and so then the fabric is not attached at the bottom anymore. So for step 3, you are going to have to cut the small stitches holding the ear to the plastic ear bone, which is attached to the shell of the Furby inside. So if you look very closely, you'll see the little tiny seams that you'll have to cut. You can use scissors. I find it way easier to use a seam ripper, though I understand that not everyone has a seam ripper. If you can use that though, it'll make your life easier. If not, it's no big deal. Take out the threads once you've cut them, and you'll be able to release the ear from the plastic. Once you've done both of them, you should be able to begin inverting the Furby skin and preparing for removal. Now at this point, you may be encountering some hot glue attachments that are making it difficult to separate the Furby skin from the shell, and that is normal. Don't worry if it feels like you're tugging too difficult or too forcefully. That's normal, so don't worry about that. Now, if your Furby has screws holding the faceplate on the shell, you're going to need the tiny screwdriver at this point to unscrew them. So there you go, unscrew them. Side note, I do suggest keeping some sort of container to keep track of your screws, especially if you plan to put this Furby back together. Now, once you've unscrewed both sides of the Furby faceplate, you'll be able to unattach it. And there you go! Your Furby skin is completely detached from the shell and is ready for washing, or if you're plushifying, or if you just wanted to get closer to the mechanics of the Furby to fix something internally. This process took me a total of about 10 minutes to complete. Now on to the washing experience. I use this tub. You can use a sink or a bathtub or a soup pot. I use this tub. My other products include this delicate soap. I got this soap at Target. It was less than $10. You'll need your Furby skin, a old toothbrush that you don't use anymore, a timer, and a Ziploc bag and rubber band to preserve the tag. The first thing you want to do is fill the tub with cold water, as cold as you can get it, because anything that is warm or hot, you risk the dye color bleeding. Next, put the soap in the water. I suggest putting about 2 to 3 tablespoons. You really don't need a whole lot. Use it sparingly, I would suggest. And now you can just put the Furby in the water. I kind of swished it around, hoping to get some of the soap that I knew was at the bottom of the tub on the Furby. Set a timer for 7 minutes, and then after 7 minutes, come back, flip the Furby over, and set a timer for another 7 minutes, just so that the entire Furby skin has been immersed. After that, 14 minutes of soaking time, scrub the Furby. I personally was happy with how the Furby skin was when it came to me. It didn't smell bad. There were no visible stains. So my scrubbing is really just kind of to push the soap everywhere, not because I needed to focus on a certain area. However, if your Furby does have stains or areas of focus that you want to address, now is the time with your toothbrush. Another thought that I'd like to add about the amount of soap that you should use is that if you are scrubbing at this step and there's not a whole lot of suds or bubbles, you probably didn't use a lot of soap. Here is when I realized I probably didn't use enough soap. However, I wanted to stay away from using too much soap, as that could also make the colors bleed. So I erred on the side of caution. However, 2 to 3 tablespoons, which I definitely did not use when I was pouring it in this video, so don't take my amount as the perfect example, because I didn't use enough. However, you don't want it to be like a bubble bath with how much suds there are, so it'll be one of those things where the more you do it, the more you will be comfortable with it and the more you'll know. So yeah. And once you are done and happy with how much you've scrubbed it, go to the sink and rinse it out with cold water by squeezing it until all of the suds and bubbles are out of the Furby, and that you are happy with how it has been cleaned. Before starting the drying process, try to squeeze out as much of the water as you can beforehand, so that way there's less amount of water that has to dry on its own. And lastly, what I use to dry my Furby skin is setting a towel sandwich where there's towel, fold it over so the Furby skin is sitting in between, and then I set something heavy on top of the Furby. This time, it was my sewing machine, and I leave that to dry for about 6 to 8 hours. Other methods of drying you use can be setting it out on a window, but I like this method the most, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. So there you go. Unscrew them.